The forgotten species. The Grand Council chamber glittered with crystalline light, refracting off walls of transparent alloy. Representatives of 50 civilizations argued across the tiered amphitheater, their voices translated into a chorus of metallic tones. At the center, a massive holomap displayed the spread of the Zorath Empire, a red tide advancing across neutral space. They have consumed 3 sectors in as many cycles, droned an insectoid delegate, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Their fleets are efficient, disciplined, and overwhelming. We require innovation. The word innovation hung like a sour note. Among the council species, innovation was synonymous with danger. Captain Elena Ramirez sat at the back, representing Earth's fledgling presence. Her uniform was plain compared to the ornate robes and living symbionts worn by the others. Few even glanced at her. Humanity had only been admitted to the council a decade earlier, largely as an afterthought, a curiosity from the spiral arm. "Let us be realistic," said a scaled ambassador, tail coiling smugly. "We need disciplined fleets, not improvisation. Order defeats chaos. That is why the Zorath succeed. That is why humans are irrelevant." His slitted eyes flicked briefly toward Ramirez before dismissing her entirely. Another voice rose, softer but sharper. "Irrelevant." The speaker was Professor Carl, a scholar from the avian coral species. His feathers fluffed in agitation. "Perhaps irrelevant in strength, yes. But humans are not normal. They do not conform to natural limitations." The chamber rippled with laughter and derision. Ramirez stiffened. She had expected to be ignored, but outright mockery cut deeper. Carl persisted, his talons scraping against the podium. "Consider, humans thrive on every environment of their homeworld. Ice, desert, jungle, ocean, no specialization, yet survival everywhere. Their history is filled with calamities that would have annihilated other species. Volcanic winters, plagues, self-inflicted wars, and still they endure. It is a pattern of persistence, not power. Their advantage is subtle, but it exists. Persistence does not stop plasma fire," the scaled ambassador hissed. "Their biology is weak, their weapons primitive. They are little more than scavengers who mimic true civilizations." Ramirez rose, breaking protocol. Her voice carried through the translators with crisp defiance. "Scavengers? Perhaps. But scavengers outlive predators when the world changes. The Zorath aren't winning because they are stronger. They are winning because you're predictable. If the Council wants victory, it won't be through bigger fleets. It'll be through adaptability. And no one adapts faster than humanity." The chamber fell into uneasy silence. Ramirez knew she had spoken out of turn, but she didn't regret it. Every instinct told her that humanity's time on the galactic stage had arrived. As the session adjourned, she caught Carl's eye. The scholar tilted his head, feathers settling in quiet approval. Perhaps she wasn't alone in seeing it. War was coming, and the galaxy had forgotten what humans were capable of. That mistake would not last. Into the fire. The first Zorath assault fell upon the Council's frontier like a hammer striking glass. Their ships cut through defenses with precision, formations folding seamlessly around enemy strongpoints. Border worlds that had stood for centuries fell in days. Captain Elena Ramirez's ship, the Dauntless, received orders to evacuate refugees from Arun Station. The official directive was clear: preserve lives, abandon the colony. To Ramirez, it felt like surrender. When she arrived, chaos filled the station docks. Thousands of civilians pressed against airlocks, clutching whatever they could carry. Cargo freighters floated idle, half-fueled and unarmed. The defense fleet had already withdrawn, leaving only panic behind. "Captain, we can't fight them," her first officer muttered. "We don't have the ships. We don't have the weapons." Ramirez's gaze swept the bay. Rows of mining drones, stripped for parts. Industrial lasers bolted to platforms. Or freighters with reinforced hulls. Not weapons, not yet. But tools had always been the beginning of human warcraft. "Then we improvise," she said. Within hours, the Dauntless crew worked alongside miners, engineers, and terrified civilians. Industrial lasers were mounted onto cargo ships. Fuel canisters became makeshift torpedoes. Navigation systems were stripped from shuttles and spliced into drones to create crude decoys. It was messy, inefficient, and reckless. To Ramirez, it felt like history repeating itself, humanity making weapons out of whatever was at hand. When the Zorath arrived, sleek warships gliding in perfect formation, they found not a defenseless evacuation, but a swarm of human jury rigs. "Launch everything," Ramirez ordered. The battle was chaos. Freighters barreled forward like charging beasts, ramming into enemy cruisers. Drones flickered false signals, pulling Zorath fire away from civilian transports. The Dauntless darted between giants, its smaller frame exploited for ambushes rather than retreat. To disciplined Zorath captains, the humans were an anomaly. Their tactics made no sense. Why sacrifice valuable ships? Why waste fuel on maneuvers that seemed suicidal? But while the Empire tried to adapt, time bled away. Civilians escaped through worm gates. A world the Council had already written off remained unbroken. Afterward, battered and blooded, Ramirez stood on the bridge, watching debris drift past. They had lost ships, yes, but far fewer than logic had predicted. Her comms officer reported in disbelief. "Council command says we held the line. They didn't think it was possible." Ramirez leaned against the railing, exhaustion heavy in her chest. She knew what the Council didn't. Humanity had always fought like this. Improvisation was survival. Survival was victory. For the first time in the war, the Zorath advance had stalled, not because of superior technology, but because a handful of humans refused to quit. And Ramirez realized something chilling. If this was what humanity could do with scrap metal and desperation, then the galaxy had no idea what they were truly capable of. The nature of the advantage. The Council chamber was quieter than Ramirez had ever seen it. Reports from Arun Station had spread like wildfire. Humans had held back the Zorath, not with fleets or advanced weaponry, but with freighters and miners' tools. To some, it was an inspiration. To others, it was an embarrassment. Professor Carl stood at the podium, his feathers bristling as he addressed the assembly. "The evidence is undeniable. Humanity succeeded where we failed. We must ask why." A chorus of objections followed. "Luck," hissed the scaled ambassador. "Suicidal recklessness," another added. "They threw lives away." Carl spread his wings sharply, silencing the chamber. "No, this was not luck. This was not madness. It is a pattern. Their species survives calamities that annihilate others. They adapt faster than we can comprehend. When conditions shift, when logic dictates surrender, they change the rules of the game." All eyes turned to Ramirez, seated in the lower gallery. She stood slowly, her voice steady. "We didn't win because we're stronger. We won because we refused to stop fighting. Humanity has lived through ice ages, plagues, wars, and famine. Every disaster reshaped us, but it never destroyed us. That is our advantage." The Council listened in uneasy silence. Far from the chamber, the war raged on. Ramirez's coalition fleet, a patchwork of human vessels mixed with Council warships, prepared to defend another border system. This time, Ramirez was given command authority. Many alien captains resented it, but desperation left little room for pride. The battle unfolded in orbit over Tariel Prime. Zorath cruisers advanced in flawless formation, their strategy precise, almost mechanical. Council ships braced in rigid lines, as doctrine demanded. "Predictable, vulnerable, break formation," Ramirez ordered. Her alien subcommanders hesitated. Breaking ranks was unthinkable. Chaos meant weakness. But the humans obeyed instantly, scattering their ships in wild, irregular arcs. They darted through asteroid fields, launched erratic missile bursts, feinted retreats only to strike from behind. Council ships, caught between fear and awe, began to imitate them. The Zorath formation faltered. Their disciplined maneuvers became liabilities against an enemy that refused to fight the way they were supposed to. Ramirez's fleet lost ships, more than she could bear, but Tariel Prime held. For the second time, humanity's unpredictability turned certain defeat into survival. Afterward, Council officers whispered among themselves. Words once used as insults, reckless, chaotic, stubborn, were spoken now with reluctant admiration. Back in her quarters, Ramirez reviewed the casualty lists. She knew the truth. The human advantage was not free. It demanded sacrifice, risk, and pain. But it also meant survival where none was possible. Professor Call's words echoed in her mind. They changed the rules of the game. And Ramirez knew the Zorath still hadn't realized what they were truly up against. The human dawn. The Zorath's final offensive came without warning. A massive fleet surged through hyperspace corridors and descended upon Rylith, one of the Council's core worlds. Panic swept through the chambers of government. If Rylith fell, the rest of the Council would collapse with it. Every available ship was thrown into the defense. Ramirez's patched-together coalition arrived late, engines screaming from overuse. She stood on the Dauntless Bridge, staring at the tactical display. The Zorath formation was perfect, a wall of fire and steel. Against them, the Council fleet assembled in neat, rigid lines, textbook doctrine that the enemy had studied for centuries. "They'll break us," muttered her first officer. "Same as before." "Not if we stop playing their game," Ramirez replied. She opened the comms to every captain, human and alien alike. Her voice carried with fierce clarity. "The Zorath expect order. Give them chaos. Break formation. Trust your instincts. Fight like humans." At first, hesitation rippled across the fleet. Then, one by one, ships peeled away from rigid lines, scattering into unpredictable maneuvers. Human vessels darted into the Zorath's flanks. Alien captains, desperate enough to try anything, followed suit. Suddenly the battle became a storm, messy, violent, impossible to predict. The Zorath faltered. Their precise formations crumbled as ships chased decoys, collided under confused orders, and found themselves ambushed in asteroid shadows. Council vessels that once died in neat rows now fought with irregular ferocity, buying each other time, striking where least expected. Ramirez's Dauntless led a feint into the enemy's center, drawing fire before slipping aside and unleashing a swarm of jury-rigged drones. Explosions blossomed across the enemy's command ships. For the first time, the Zorath began to retreat. The battle dragged for hours, but when the smoke cleared, Rylith still stood. Against overwhelming odds, the coalition had won, not because of stronger weapons, but because humanity had shown them another way to fight. In the aftermath, the council chamber was transformed. Ramirez stood before delegates who once dismissed her. Now, they regarded her with something new, respect, tinged with unease. Professor Call rose beside her. "You see it now. The human advantage is not muscle, nor intellect alone. It is their will, their refusal to surrender, their ability to change when all else fails. In them lies the path to survival." The chamber voted unanimously. Earth would no longer be a minor protectorate. Humanity would stand as a founding power in the new alliance. Later, aboard the Dauntless, Ramirez gazed at the stars. She thought of Earth, fragile, imperfect, scarred by its own history. And yet, it had given birth to something the galaxy had never seen before. "The human advantage," she murmured, "isn't strength, or speed, or genius. It's the stubborn, reckless belief that tomorrow can be won. And as long as we believe it, tomorrow will be ours." The stars stretched out before her, no longer a frontier, but a future waiting to be seized. Humanity's dawn had begun.